Hello, I'm Avery or Hazel or Kylie. You can just pick one, I don't care.
Hello, I am Lily.
And welcome to the From the Closet podcast. Today, for our free movie of the month for January 2023, we are doing The Darkest Minds, which is currently free on Freevee. You will find a link down below to all the places to Just Watch, which will have all the places that you can rent, purchase, or stream this movie. Like I said, it's free on Freevee right now. Our link is to the US version of the site. However, if you use the Just Watch app, it will redirect you to your country's page automatically, and you can change the country from the website page itself. With that being said, you can join us tomorrow for Ant-Man, and next week for X2, X-Men United, and The Greatest Showman.
Yes.
Also in the description, you will find a link to our Patreon where you can vote on future episodes of the show, as well as access episodes of this show early, and early access to episodes of our sister show, Off the Shelf, which is about books. Since The Darkest Minds is a book-to-movie adaptation, at some point I will be doing episodes of Off the Shelf on this series. Uh, so look forward to that. That series is exclusive to YouTube and Patreon. Also in the description below, you will find a link to Anchor.fm, which itself will have links to every platform this podcast is on, as well as links to our Instagram and Twitter where you can be notified when we release new episodes. With all that being said, this will contain spoilers for The Darkest Minds, so you have been warned. Get out of here if you would like to avoid spoilers, because I think I covered everything I needed to say before
Yeah.
before we
Uh,
actually dig in. Yeah. So
where do
this
you even
movie,
start with a movie like that? Like a movie like with this?
I don't know.
So
It's complicated. So for starters, this is a book-to-movie adaptation made by Fox, and Fox has a rocky history with book-to-movie adaptations. So they either make pretty all right adaptations or garbage, and this is somewhere in the middle, which isn't typical for them.
definitely. Yeah. It's
Uh,
hard to
like
even talk about this movie because there's a point in this movie where like around the end and then just put a knife through that. It's like, this is pretty good. What the hell is this? And that's how I kind of feel.
yeah. Um, I don't really know how to put this. I was excited to see this movie when like it was first coming out. I hadn't read the books at the time, but I would go and I would read the books later, and I remember things being very different towards the end. I remember there being a lot more to Clancy Gray's character, uh, and a lot of things that like he was seemingly a lot more evil in the book, if you can believe it.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
there's
It's just
but go ahead.
Um, I guess what I want to say is the characters are really good. This is a very character-driven narrative. To have to have it all broken down at the end, you don't see one of the main characters. Pretty sure she's dead. One of them hospitalized, and the two ones that are still around, just one got memory
Okay.
erased, and just what is this? I
Okay, so Zoo is not dead.
Okay.
As for
Well,
where
at
she
least
is, I
that's
can't
good.
remember. Liam losing his memories of Ruby is actually true to the book, but there's more to that story,
Hmm.
and it's a lot more like tragic. I don't remember Ruby joining the Children's League. I got to be honest with you, I don't remember that. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. I just can't recall it.
like
But Liam does, in fact,
everything up to the Children's League, I thought was pretty good. Especially the Orange that was secretly working against everyone.
yeah, and pretty much the thing that kind of annoys me is, well, I guess one of the things that kind of annoys me is introducing Reds too early, because I don't think the Reds were introduced in the first book. Like, they were
Really?
talked about. Yeah, like, they were talked about, but I don't think we saw them until later.
I mean, I'll be honest, it would put a very sour taste in my mouth if I didn't know or didn't get to see Reds. And that's just because, this movie didn't receive a sequel, which it probably, if it was better, should have.
Maybe it would have. Yeah. Maybe it would have gotten a sequel. They certainly didn't ruin it to the point where there was no way they could make a sequel. Um, but to be fair, I thought they ruined The Lightning Thief to the point where there was no way they could make a sequel
But here
because
we
they
are.
completely left out this. Like, they completely left out the setup for the rest of the franchise in that movie. But, I mean, it got a sequel anyway.
Well, at least that sequel didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Even though it kind of wanted to. It didn't.
But the thing is with this movie, I don't know how the author feels about it, because she seemed pretty excited for it leading up to it as well. Um, and then I don't know that I've heard from her since. But
Interesting.
I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious now that Never Fade is not going to be adapted into a movie. I mean, this movie came out in August 2018, so it's been almost 5 years.
That's a
Or
recent.
was it
It's
October?
2018. Wow.
Yeah, it was either August or October. I can't remember which.
Hmm.
But regardless, like, the second book's not getting adapted. But the thing that I really go ahead.
I don't know how much I feel
You were
about
gonna.
not getting a sequel because on the one hand, everything leading up to it was pretty good. It's the world building, I'll have to be honest, is exceptional. Especially, easing us in on, these. Honestly, I kind of just want to call them mutants, even though I know that's not what they are.
See, the funny
These
thing
kids.
is, there's literally an X-Men reference in this movie, and I don't know. I can't recall if it's in the book or not.
Hmm.
But Ruby tells Lady Jane to walk into the woods and keep walking and blah, 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 blah. That's a reference to X-Men Origins Wolverine, where a similar thing happens, except it's walk until your feet bleed and then keep walking.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. Like, this book series feels quite similar to the X-Men, and, like, it's also part of the I think it's part of the big wave of dystopian young adult trilogies. Maybe it predates the Hunger Games, but I'm not certain about that. I don't think it does. But this was one of
Um,
the good trilogies. It actually didn't have a shitty ending.
yeah. How was
But I
when you read
think
the book?
go ahead.
How how was it?
I very much enjoyed the books.
Hmm.
Some people enjoyed them a lot more than I did, but I very much did enjoy them. Which actually, this reminds me, there is something I have to complain about that this movie doesn't do, and I think they should have done.
Hmm.
The books referenced a certain song a lot, like so many times, and it was kind of seen as the theme song for this series. And that song is Wouldn't It Be Nice by the Beach Boys. Or Beastie Boys, I don't
Huh.
remember. One of the
I think it's
two.
the Beach Boys. Anyway.
Regardless, they don't have Wouldn't It Be Nice in this movie at all. And that's just kind of, no, you don't make a Darkest Minds movie and not include Wouldn't It Be Nice.
That's kind of a weird addition. Like, okay.
I mean, the
I've
lyrics
never
of the
read the
song are
book,
like,
so I don't know the context, so I was saying that.
the lyrics of the song are literally, wouldn't it be nice if we were older? Then we wouldn't have to wait so long. Some more stuff I can't remember, but I think that's mainly what it focuses on. It's like wouldn't it be nice if we were older? Because remember, like,
Yeah.
adults wouldn't get the virus or whatever.
How was this
But yeah,
virus
it's
even spread?
no idea. I can't remember. Maybe they talked about it in the books and I just forgot. But like they certainly didn't describe how it spread in the movie.
Mm-hmm. So,
But yeah, I go
and
ahead.
this movie is actually, I want to talk about this movie is almost kind of relating it like X-Men back into like, these are discriminated people.
More
And
than
almost
discriminated, like the US
yeah.
government is literally killing kids.
Ugh, that is not something anyone wants to say out loud.
Yeah.
And though it's kind of interesting, is I think it like discrimination works a little bit better than X-Men because you have these level greens who are literally just smart, but they're
Yeah.
being categorized in the same way as the most dangerous people on Earth.
Well, I mean, they are classifying them like in different groups. Because like you
Mm-hmm.
have your greens that are just really smart, your blues that are telekinetic, your yellows or golds, whichever, that like can control like electricity, which I don't remember if that's book accurate or not. Um, your reds, which basically
Fire.
have fire. It's fire, and then oranges, which are literally they can mind control.
Very interesting, especially how they can just put in a memory into someone else's
or
brain.
take or even take memories away. But one of the sad things that gets revealed later in the books is that when Ruby erases somebody's memories, she doesn't erase their emotions. So
Interesting.
when her parents still had all of the emotions that they had for her,
Oh,
but
oh
none of the
God, that is.
memories.
Oh God, I just realized the implications on that.
Yeah.
She had no emotions for her own child.
No, she had the emotions, but no memories.
But then, like, what I mean is, before and after, there was no love because when she saw her, wouldn't that, trigger a memory? She acted like never met her emotionally.
We find out later how much how it was actually affecting her in the moment.
Oh,
It
okay.
it's a lot more complex because, like I said, the emotion doesn't actually trigger the memory because there's no memory there anymore.
Yes, that makes sense. My assumption is like when she saw her, she should have been like at least feeling something other than "Who the hell are you?" Then again,
Yeah, and
she
it's
was
like
very sympathetic. Wait, hold on a second. Now I think about, she was very sympathetic to this random child that just random came into her house. A bit more than you originally would, even if it was a child.
yeah, like the whole thing with oranges are complicated, and like also how oranges can affect each other. And I can't recall if Clancy Gray was also like it also told Ruby that he was the only other orange, but that doesn't strike me as right.
I mean,
I
he did seem like manipulative liar.
Yeah, there's a lot to this. I don't really remember much about uh, like what Clancy actually did in the books, but I know it was a lot more than what he did in the movie, and it made him a lot worse.
Hmm. I
Um,
find it interesting how, oranges have like this very complex power, and then when you go a step above, it's just fire.
I mean, the Reds can just straight up like kill you outright. It's weird though how Reds are considered more dangerous, even though oranges I would think are far more dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, when I thought about reds being, more dangerous than orange before we saw them, I just thought like, I wonder if they can just kill you instantly. Like you look at them, it's like, oh, you're dead now.
But yeah,
But
like
no, it's just fire.
it, yeah, it's just fire. Um, which I don't think is really that dangerous. I think there might have been more to the Reds that I can't remember that was talked about later in the books. Um,
Uh,
I want to
could
say
be
there
it.
might have been something about how their mental stability was compromised,
I mean, that definitely did look
but
like they definitely did look not mentally stable. And at the time, I thought it was because of the orange mind control, but I don't know.
there's
Maybe it's.
probably more to it that I just don't remember. I will say one bit of comedy that I appreciate in this movie is when Ruby first shows the group that she is an orange, and like passes out, and like after she wakes up, she hears Liam and Chubbs talking about oh, talking about dumping the van, and she thought they were talking about her.
Yeah, I
I,
actually did like that. Just talking about something completely unrelated, and especially the grain just being like, yeah, I knew that since day zero.
yeah, like I mean, obviously, I don't think Liam or Zoo figured it out.
I mean,
Maybe Zoo figured it out.
he's like supposed to be super smart. I just assume that he just knows immediately. Especially looking at her, it's like, you sure you're agreeing?
I mean, he literally said earlier, like, I'm smart enough to know that they don't put in this much effort for a green. Like, he said that earlier, and, like, it's pretty obvious he knows. But I just found it funny when he was like, we're talking about damn Betty, not your orange ass.
I that that was really funny.
But yeah,
But these characters are actually really
go ahead.
funny in the moment, you know?
Yeah, they are. And
Especially the
to be
silent
honest,
one. The silent one was my favorite character.
Zoo.
Yeah.
I don't remember if if she's actually mute or if she just chooses not to speak. I feel
I
like
feel
that
like
was talked about.
yeah, because I feel like I
I feel
remember
like that was
her actually talking, like when she needed to.
no, no,
Hmm.
she never talks in the movie. She hums, but we never hear her talk.
I can swear I heard
Um,
her talk in like the very earliest parts, where she's like whispered.
no. Um, However, though, I can't remember if the book mentioned whether or not if the books mentioned whether or not she was mute or if she just chose not to speak. Um, but this series is I know some people who like it's one of their favorite series just in general. It's
Hmm.
kind of disappointing to that it got a at best mediocre adaptation. It's still an enjoyable movie, but it's not that great of an adaptation.
And I'll be honest, like when it comes to my rating, I think I will give it a bit lower than maybe it truly deserves, just because of the weird taste it gave at the end. Because the dynamics
Yeah,
between everyone, the world building, it is actually phenomenal. But the what they did at the end, and with no conclusion, no sequel to back it up, it just leaves you with that bad taste, and you'll never get closure.
yeah, like it's they set it up. They set it up to get a sequel, but it never really got one. Um,
And
and it's
maybe, and I'll even open it up. Like, if this movie got a sequel, I would for sure want to revise my rating with this new information. It's like, what were
I
they
think
planning?
it's
That's what I want to know, and
yeah,
I'll
I think
never
it's too
know.
late now. And the thing is, to me, it seems like they really wanted a sequel because like they kept that they mentioned quite a few other things that would be introduced later. Like they mentioned Liam's brother, who doesn't get introduced until later in the series. Um, and like there's a lot more going on, and eventually there is a solution to everything. Um, but yeah, like it's this. There's a lot going on here that they don't really dive into, and they leave out some things that I think are that a lot of people said were pretty important for the story. It I just can't remember the book series all that well, and I really need to reread it. And I definitely will for off the shelf at some point.
Honestly, you
But
probably
like,
should, because you were looking for any video about book to movie adaptation, like what changed, and there was nothing. So you could be at least one of the more first reliable sources.
yeah, I mean, like there were like two videos that I could find that were like discussing book versus movie on this movie, but like they neither one of them were handled that well. I think they were both by creators who seemed fairly new to creating content, and they weren't really following an outline or anything.
Hmm. Kind of like us, but not really.
Yeah, like there's we have a format for our content that they didn't really seem to have. And there's no
Yeah.
like lost in adaptation video on this movie, which would have been really nice because that format is a really good way to digest differences between a book and a movie.
I love the comedy Lost in Adaptation.
I do too. I think they're really fun. And it's quite
Especially
hilarious
in
when
a. Hmm. Sorry,
it,
I'll let you go.
it's quite hilarious when they rip on a movie that did a horrible job adapting the source material.
Hmm.
Like the rants on the Percy Jackson movies and the Artemis Fowl movie are quite hilarious. God, Artemis Fowl, that's going to be something. We'll probably cover that eventually too.
Really? I mean, I always hear
Yeah,
so much about this movie from you, and I've never actually watched it myself.
it's bad. I haven't watched it either, but like I have seen quite a lot of clips. Holy God, I don't. Ugh,
So,
it
something
just
else I wanted to talk about is the romance in this movie, which it does not get. It doesn't really get my seal of approval because, yeah, it did kind of happen pretty fast for literally nothing. And yes,
I
for
mean
literally nothing, he just forgets it at the end.
that's one of the complications of this being a movie. In the book, there's more time between when Ruby first meets up with the group and when they arrive at the camp or whatever you want to call it.
Hmm. Like, to
And like
me,
the
it only
romance
seems
develops a
like
lot
a
more.
few
Plus,
days.
to me the romance does develop a lot more in the book, and then there's two other books to follow it. There's a lot more that happens.
I can also forgive this because you could just chop it up to like dumb kid love. Could.
Yeah, there's also the element of the fact that they're teens, and teens fall in love fast and fall out of it fast.
Actually, I retract what I said because in that aspect, it actually is kind of realistic.
Yeah. Um, but God, like it there is also the aspect that it is a little unnecessary. Like YA books tend to start pairing everyone off, and I'm glad they didn't really go for like giving everybody a love interest in this series. Like really,
Hmm.
Ruby and Liam are the only real couple that I can even recall from the series like existing. But like something like Percy Jackson, where like throughout the Heroes of Olympus, they literally give all seven of the main characters a pairing somewhere,
I
and
mean,
I'm
I
just
kind
like,
of like
stop.
how a lot of them are just not on screen, so you don't really know how much time it took, to fall in love. It's just all assumed, you know. And Percy and
Uh,
Annabeth are actually pretty good.
yeah, Percy and Annabeth was like the best couples writing that Rick Riordan ever did, but I mean, then you have Jason and Piper and Hazel and Frank and Leo and a certain other person I can't name because spoilers.
Yeah, Jason and Piper were very interesting for reasons.
Yeah, but like I don't know, it just to me I feel like YA books do shove in romance more often than they need to. It's not unwelcome here, but
Hmm.
it's certainly something that happens too much. It feels like a
Um,
crutch. That's how I want to describe it. It feels like a crutch a lot of the time, where it's like, oh, I can't come up with an interesting subplot, so here's a romance, and here's another one, and here's another one, and another one.
Absolutely. If I have to describe Hollywood, and I know you're talking about movies, but if I have to describe Hollywood, it is unnecessary romance, actors taking off their shirts.
I was talking about books though, not movies, but
I
like,
know. I addressed that.
well, you said I know you're talking about movies.
Oh, I meant to say books.
Yeah. And it's
That was on
particularly
me.
YA books. it's particularly young adult books, particularly series that have this issue. Um, Whereas, like in movies, there is very often an unnecessary, always straight romance, and actors taking off their shirts. Yeah, it does get old. Like, come up with other side plots. Romance can be interesting, but don't shove in a romance just to fill out time. Give it an actual purpose. And I feel like with the Darkest Minds, there's actually a purpose to the romance. It's used to
Mhm.
demonstrate Ruby's abilities in a certain way. Um, it's very purposeful here, but in some other series, it's just why did you do
False
this?
plot.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's all I gotta say for now.
Yeah, I think I've exhausted all my ideas.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is a subpar adaptation. It's not one of the worst, but it isn't good either.
As
So,
for a
with all that
movie,
being said, I'm going to talk about. As for a
okay.
movie, it's enjoyable, um, but nothing stand out really. Like, is it going to hold a candle to the X-Men series? No,
No.
no, it's not. So really, it almost just feels like a meh X-Men movie.
And
But
honestly,
yeah, let's get into. Go ahead.
sorry, what I was thinking is like the back of my mind is like this seems like X-Men origin story. Like this is how the mutants became to be.
Yeah, except like with the mutants in X-Men, it was more about like evolution, whereas with this is a virus, and it's the people who survive end up with powers. But yeah, I'm gonna get into the critic ratings, and these are some of the lowest ratings I've seen in a long time. So, IMDb gives this movie a 5.7 out of 10.
Not
Rotten
bad.
Tomatoes gives it
Terrible.
a Rotten Tomatoes gives it 15%.
Oh Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Voodoo gives it 4.2 out of 5, which is respectable. And
Okay.
then 55% of Google users liked this movie. I
Jesus.
don't think I've
What
I
the
don't think I've
hell?
ever seen a Google user score that low. Like, I've specifically gone out of my way to search bad things on Google and see if I could find a Google user score that low. And I don't know that I've ever seen it.
Well, Avery, the problem is you weren't searching up this movie, obviously.
Yeah, let me look at The Last Airbender just to see what the Google user score is for that movie.
Okay. Actually, while you're doing that, I want to say my rating, which is honestly flat 7.
Okay, so the Google user score for The Last Airbender is 48%.
Okay, hey, you've seen lower now.
Yeah. So I don't know if I would give this a 7. I think I'm probably going to give it a 6.3. It's still an enjoyable movie, bad adaptation though. And I think that
Hmm.
detracts a lot. Um,
I can't say
I
anything on the
can't
adaptation
realistically.
aspect because I haven't read the book.
Yeah, I can't realistically give it anything higher. It's the start of a series, but it's a series that would never see its sequels made. So it's like it feels incomplete because it is incomplete. But yeah, with all that being said, you can join us tomorrow for Ant-Man and next week for X2 X-Men United. And Fucking something else. I said it earlier and I can't remember what it was.
Just rewind the
Oh
video.
well, The Greatest Showman. It was The Greatest Showman.
Okay.
Anyway, join us later for those. But with that being said, I've been Avery. That's been Lily. We will be seeing you.